Hi guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Marilyn and my channel is Making with Marilyn. Now on today's video, I'm going to make a Christmas decoration for the wall of my office at work. What I'm going to use today is some black painted plywood. This is 1/8 inch plywood. It used to be this color. I just used some chalk paint on this. And then another piece of wood, another piece of plywood, but I got this from xTool. So this is finished off just a little bit nicer than the wood that you would get at Home Depot or Lowe's. Now I'm going to use a laser for this. I'm going to use the xTool P2. That's a CO2 laser. You could use other lasers. You could even use a piece of wood and some black HTV or black vinyl. But in today's video, I'm going to use the P2 and I'm going to cut 2 layers out, put them together. I think this is going to be a really quick project and I hope it turns out super cute. Now here's the design that I'm going to use today, and I put this together in Inkscape. You could use whatever design software you want, Inkscape, Illustrator, Silhouette, just whatever design software you like to use. What I did is I brought in this little image from Creative Fabrica, and then I added a J and a Y. And I'm going to put in the video what font this is. After I did that, then I combined everything so that there's no cut lines in between. So if you use Cricut, it'd be the same as welding it. This design is actually 2 layers. You have the black layer and the gray layer. So the black layer will be cut out of my black piece of wood. It consists of this faux frame. I'm just going to glue that down on top. And then the word joy, again with the image that I brought in from Creative Fabrica. The gray rectangle, that's going to be cut out of the lighter piece of wood. Then all I have to do is glue the faux frame down and then glue this down. This is going to come in all in one piece with one exception. This little star will have to be glued down separately. All right, go ahead and close that out. We're done with it. Now this software is xTool Creative Space. This is a software that you use to run your laser machine. All right, let's go right up here to image. I'll click on that. And then I need to find my image. I think I named it Joy Nativity Scene. Okay, Joy Nativity. I click on that and I say open. Okay, so it came in 2 layers. Let's see. Is that on top of it? Yes. So here is my black layer. And then this purple one, that's what I'm going to cut out of the other piece of wood. What I need to do now is I need to turn on the P2, the camera will come on, then I can place my first piece of wood on top. Now that the P2's on and I can see in the camera my material, I'm ready to go ahead and start the cut. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead and click on this one. This is the black layer and I'm going to say ignore. I don't want that to cut right now. So I clicked on ignore and I'm just going to move it out of the way. Now I want to move this other rectangle over and place it about right there so I save material. I'm going to go right over here and tell my machine that I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to click off of it so that I can pick my material. Let's see, what should I use? I'm going to click on more and then I'm going to go ahead and type in the word wood. Let's see what all woods they have that I can use. Now I think this is the 3mm cherry plywood. I know it's 3mm. Let me go ahead and click on use. And then before I potentially waste material, I'm going to do a little test cut up here. So even for layer 1, let's click on that and I'm going to say ignore. Now let's go up here. I think shapes is the right thing. Let me click on shapes. And then I can use this arrow to get more shapes. And I'm just going to pick a circle. All right, we're going to make this circle a lot smaller. And we're just going to place it right up here so that it doesn't ruin any of the material that I need for this job. I'm going to select cut. And then let's see if I'm still on the same wood. Okay, 3mm cherry. That's the basic thickness. Let's click back on it. Now for this cut, this is going to use a power of 100 and a speed of 20. It's going to do 1 pass. Let's go ahead and try it out. Now to do that, I'm going to click right here on the word process. So now I can click start. Now before this will start cutting, you have to push the start button on the top of the P2. Now I can see without even lifting that door that cut beautifully. Let's go ahead and select the circle and I'll hit delete. Alright, let's try to move this down just a tiny bit. We'll click on capture close view. Let's look at this left corner. That looks good. Now let's look at the right corner. Alright, that looks good as well. So I'm going to have to go back up and say output. We're cutting it. Let's click off of it, make sure I have the right material, and I do. So it's time to hit process. This gives me a little preview, so I click start. Once again, I'm ready to go press that button and have this cut out. Now that layer's cut out, and it cut out beautifully, I'll go ahead and say OK. I did go ahead and put the black wood in. Now, it might be really hard to see. Let's click on refresh. If it's too hard to see, I can put some white cardstock or something like that under it and have it stick out from the edges. Okay, it is very hard to see. You can see the glare of the base, and then right here is where the wood is. Now this little black rectangle, that is still from when I refreshed on that other piece of wood. Let me go ahead and delete this layer, and then we'll move this layer over into place. Now let's get a better view of that. So I'm going to click on capture close view, and we'll look right over here. Alright, that is super hard to see. I'm going to move it up just a little bit. I think that the wood ends about right there. Let's look at the other corner. Okay, that looks like we're perfectly fine. Now, just like last time, I'm going to go ahead and leave this layer to ignore, and I'm going to go up here to shape, and I'm going to put another small circle in there. Let's make that circle smaller. Now this time, I'm going to put it right over here because this is just waste. I'm going to use this outside ring for the faux frame, and then I'm going to use the joy. So this is just wasted material right here. Actually, let's just move that up a little bit. It's already marked to be an output. We're not ignoring it. Let's click off of it, and then let's go find our material. So I'm going to click on material. This time I'm using 3mm basswood. It just happens to be painted with chalk paint. We're going to try the automatic settings for this. So I click on it. Let's click back on the circle. And this is using a power of 12 and a speed of 160. Now, I thought that was off, and here's why. That is just set to score it. That means it would just put a mark around it or a little line around it. Let's click on cut and see how those change. Okay, that's better. Power of 100, speed of 30. Let's go ahead and try it out. I'll click process, start, and then once again I'll go back over there and push that button to start the cut. That was a great cut as well. Let's go ahead and say OK. And then let's get on that circle and just delete it. Now I need to click on my design, and we're going to move that to output. We're also going to put it on cut. So it should be 100% power, 30 speed. That worked well last time. We'll stay with that. Let's click off of it and just make sure it's still on basswood, which it is. This is going to be such a fast project. Okay, so we are ready to say process, start, and we're getting ready to do our last cut. Now that took 3 minutes and 7 seconds. I don't think that's too bad. I'm going to go ahead and say okay, and I am done. Let's go back over to the table and put this together. Now that I have it all cut out, I have my parts and pieces here. I have my joy. I have my faux frame. I have my little star, and then I have my back piece. Now, because I could see some different gray colors on it after cutting it out, I went ahead, I took this outside, and I sprayed it with just a thin spritz of chalk paint again. Now, I didn't mention earlier, I'm going to use wood glue, but that's what I like to use on this. And let me move this bottom piece so I don't accidentally drop some on it. I'm just going to put a thin bead of this all the way around. This has been in the garage. It's really cold out there, so it's pretty thick. It might take a while. And then I have a little coffee stir stick just if I need some help. Now, I don't want to get this glue very close to the outside of the frame because I don't want it seeping out. So I'm going to try just to put a thin bead in the center of this all the way around. Now, this doesn't take a ton of glue. If you put too much on, it is going to seep out. So just go with a really thin strip. And you have a little bit of work time with this. Now, it'll start getting kind of a little film on it if you wait too long. But it's not going to take that long to do this. Now, I got kind of thick over here in a corner, so I'm going to have to clean that up a little bit. All right, here's what it looks like so far. Just a real thin bead, and I do have it way too thick in that corner, so I'm going to use my little coffee stir stick, kind of spread that around some. And then I don't want any close to the edge because I know that's going to seep out if it's close to the edge. All right, I think that looks pretty good, other than this is a really, really thin strip down here. Just not quite enough glue. So I'll put just a tiny bit more there. Now, when I put this down on the back piece, I have to be pretty careful. I don't want to put it down and then move it around because that's going to get glue on this back piece. Now, if I have to, I can use the back side too, but I don't want to do that. I want to get it right the first time. So I'm going to put the little ends together, kind of the corners together. I have it, you can see there, I have it tilted up. So I'm going to get this into place and then drop it down. Let's line up those corners exactly. That is looking good. That is looking very good. Now, because my wood isn't super flat, it's slightly warped, I'm going to put a tile on top of this, so like a ceramic tile. I had just a little bit of glue that seeped out on the outside edge. That is better than having it seep out in the middle because I can paint over that with just a little dab of paint. Let me get that tile. I'm going to set it down and wait about 15 minutes. Okay, just going to get this back into place one more time. I do expect to have to paint just a little bit along the edge. That's okay. I'm going to put this flat on the table so I can push down and make sure it really is where it needs to be. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to drop my tile straight on top of it. I don't want to slide it around and cause the top to shift. Let's come back in about 15 minutes. Now, I'm not sure why I didn't do all the layers at the same time. I could have just had to press this once for 15 minutes, but I wasn't thinking ahead. So it's time to put the word joy on there. If I wanted to, I could use this, lay it down in there so that I know I have this exactly where it goes. It's not that big of a deal on this design, but sometimes that can come in handy. So we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to put some wood glue on this. I'm not going to put wood glue where there's really, really thin lines. I'm going to go where the bulky areas are. Then I have just a tiny bit of cleanup to do. I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and lay that one down. And then the last thing I need to put down is this little bitty star. Now, this is going to be hard to do because it's so tiny. So I might have a little bit of glue that seeps out. But that'll be okay. Nobody's going to get so close to this that they see that. Now, I don't think I got enough on there. Doesn't seem to want to be sticking down. Okay, that's a lot better. Now, I do see a little bit of glue that came out. Let me get a toothpick and try to wipe that up real quick. Now, I didn't find a toothpick, but I did find this little Q-tip, so I'm going to use it instead. Okay, that's coming off pretty nicely. I think that looks pretty good. Now, I can see around the edges that I'm going to need to touch this up with some paint. Also, it is kind of warped. I said that earlier. So this corner really isn't fitting well. I'm going to shove some glue in there and put the ceramic tile back on top. Yeah, that's just from the warpage of the wood. I don't know how much more glue I can stick in there without getting it all over this, but I'm going to try to put just a little bit in there. Now I want to press down really hard on that to try to get that to stick down just a little bit better. I'm going to let this dry for somewhere around 30 minutes. I'm going to touch up the edges with just some craft acrylic paint. Then I'm going to show you the final result. Now, after a few minutes, I checked my project, and those corners just weren't coming together very well. So I ended up putting some little inexpensive clamps on it. Let me take those off, see if that held. And then I do have some craft paint. I can go around the edges if I need to. Honestly, I'm not sure I will. It looks pretty good. Okay, that held together really well. I don't know if you can see that, but it held together very nicely. This looks pretty good. This one corner right here, I think I'll glue it and clamp it down. But other than that, look how awesome this looks. I think that is really cute. I love it. So thanks so much for joining me today. As always, I really appreciate it. And until my next video, bye-bye.